England just go on and on and on in these first 2 days of cricket at the Chepauk. They're 555 for 8 at Stumps on day 2. Who would have thought 2 days of England batting after winning the toss, led by Joe Root, who continues to light up this landmark 100 test of him, a double 100 for the England captain, and a nice cameo from Ben Stokes. It's that sort of test match where 82 is a cameo. But that's the sort of discussion we're going to have at Stumps on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G with Gautam Gambhir and Ian Bell. And Ian Bell wouldn't have mind batting on this pitch even at this stage or age of his career. Let's go to Belly first up. He'd be very pleased. He'd be very pleased with what he's seen in the last couple of days.
Extremely pleased. I think as an English fan, there's no doubt going into this series, I think the England team yesterday morning, going to the ground for the first time, would have been nervous. I think it would have been a nervous dressing room. An India team which is packed with top players and playing at the top of their game. So firstly, to win the toss yesterday, get the foundation put in place yesterday, which was a great day from Dom Sibley. And we've talked already yesterday about, it's not just about the runs, it's about the time you bat. Staying on this wicket while it's good, and hopefully it will deteriorate, certainly from an English point of view over the next couple of days. But fantastic again. Joe Root in particular started 2021 just absolutely incredible. And has led from the front. And it was great, again, firstly, to see Ben Stokes back in the team. Again, he adds so much more when he's around with bat and ball. And that's really what England have to be doing in Test match cricket now, is lay the foundation and then let the likes of Stokes, Buttler, Pope come in and do the, I suppose, the icing on the cake and a bit of flair. But England kind of, it's just been a perfect 2 days, really. I know some people would talk about maybe declaring tonight, but I think they just want to get as many runs as they can while it's good.
All right, Gautam. Yes, it's a tough day for India. Yes, England may have had the best of the conditions, but you still have to put the runs on the board.
Lots of runs on the board. Not only runs on the board, but lots and lots of runs on the board. We were actually thinking at one stage when we spoke yesterday that 400, 450 will be a good total, but now when they've gone past 550, which is a huge total, and plus wicket has started to play tricks as well. It has started gripping, bouncing. Some balls have already started to keep low, and most importantly, I think reverse swing will play a huge part. If you see Ishan the way he bowled, so India's got a little longer tail with. Not a tail, but India's got a lot of all-rounders with Rishabh Pant, Washington Sundar, Ravichandran, Ashwin. So obviously, with England having 3 fast bowlers, they will definitely come into the play.
All right, let's talk about Joe Root now. It's been his day. He's going to remember this 100 Test match for a long time. And this incredible start to 2021 that he's had, Belly, coming at the back of the runs in Sri Lanka, to just looking like a batsman who, from start to finish, hardly put a foot wrong. It never looked like he was going to get out. Even his wicket, you think, was almost against the run of play. For those 377 balls, he just looked so comfortable. What did you make of his innings?
Yeah, it looks like run out is the only way at the moment he's going to get out. He's had that a couple of times this year. But yeah, it's been phenomenal. I mean, I can't remember an English player playing with so much control in spinning conditions. I think Sri Lanka, when we look back now, again, you never take Test cricket for granted, but that was perfect preparation going into this. This surface is a lot better than maybe the surfaces they played in Gaul. So it's been, going from real extreme spin there to a better pitch. But yeah, a phenomenal start. As I said, I've never seen an English player sweep as well as he has, and so consistently. And as it went on, we started to see a few more ranges of strokes. But he certainly, I know he's been criticised in the past for not converting 50s into hundreds, but he certainly doesn't have a problem with converting hundreds into doubles, which is not a bad, not a bad place to be. But from an English point of view and supporters at home, again, he's such an important player for this group, especially in Test match cricket, and he's leading from the front and playing as well as any English player ever has done on the subcontinent. Arguably as good as any player in an England shirt.
Yeah, Gautam made that point. We were discussing it at tea time, and Gautam was impressed on how well he was sweeping, spoke of how low he keeps himself, and the fact that we consider the sweep shot as a high-risk shot, especially when you play bowlers like Ashwin. Somehow when Joe Root plays it, there doesn't seem to be that element of risk as such. Just your observations on why he's so efficient at sweeping the way he does.
Well, I think, again, like you said, he's still quite a relatively tall guy. So again, it's quite strange for tall guys to be good sweepers, but it's just that his reach, he gets out there. I found that hard shot. Certainly the ball turning away from the bat, left arm spinner, and he seems to play that just so comfortably. And I think as a younger player, I mean, I think again, he had a bit of a growth spurt as he got older, and he was never strong enough. When you talk to him about when he was young, hitting the ball straight down the ground. So he worked hard on the sweep shots, the cut shots, the pull shots. And as he's grown taller and bigger and the reach has got there, he sort of kept that strength. But I think it was something as a young player he really worked hard on, because he just didn't have the power to hit straight. And again, any young kids watching the way he's played, certainly playing spin, how he gets forward and back in defence. But the pressure he puts on, I guess, the spinner's good length by the way he sweeps, both reverse and hard and sort of a hard square sweep. But it just is so much control. I certainly, like I said, I can't remember an England player playing as well as that.
Yeah, Gotham, similar sentiments when we spoke at tea. That's as good a knock, now that it's finally come to an end, that's as good a knock as we've seen from any overseas player or any player in India in recent memory.
Especially an Englishman. But I remember when Alistair Cook had a fabulous series in India when they won the series last time around. Alistair Cook was unbelievable. He must have got, 300s in that series, and he was actually dominating. So probably, yes, it comes as close as someone like what Alistair Cook did in 2012 it was. So yeah, I can't remember anymore probably who's had such a lot of dominance in Indian conditions. Yes, you can have actually dominance in subcontinent conditions, whether it's Sri Lanka or other places or in Bangladesh, but an Englishman coming to India and dominating, and the way Joe Root, for example, what I remember of was Alistair Cook. Not many have done that in Indian conditions against Indian bowlers, because India is known not only for his spin, but at that time we had Zaheer Khan, who was probably one of the best fast bowlers India has ever produced, and probably one of the great exponents of reverse swing. And even in this test match, if you see Jasprit Bumrah, he bowls really well with the new and the old ball. Ishant is a great exponent of reverse swing. So it's, if you see the overall attack, probably Alistair Cook, one that comes in mind, and now Joe Root.
All right, Root's day entirely, and who's to say that's the last big score we'll see from him in this series. But the other positives for England with the bat, Ben Stokes with the runs, Elliot, today on day 3, playing Test cricket after a significant period of time. He had an eventful 82, but he struck at a decent pace. That was an important innings for Stokes personally as well, wasn't it?
100%, and this is why the Test side now have got this right. The foundation, get old-fashioned openers at the top of the order that can get as a platform. Too many times in the past we've been exposing Root, Stokes to, and that's what you want to do as an opposition side. You want to get those top players in early, and it allows him to go and play with that freedom. It allows him to get the range of shots that he can play, and we know he's an attacking player. We've seen it in all formats of the game, and he can take a game away from people, but if the hard work's done first. And it was great. Like I said, he didn't go to Sri Lanka, so he had to rest. So to start the series well, you want your big players, your best players, to start series well, especially when you're playing at this level, the pinnacle. This is as tough as it gets for an English side against India away. So you want your best players playing well. I was pleased for Ollie Pope. Again, he's been out for so long with a shoulder injury. It wasn't his most fluent, but again, it's time in the middle, early in the series, which again only bodes well for the English side. And again, best at the end. Just again, the tail can wag and get some runs at back end and add, like you said, not just 450, but try and get it to 550. Again, it's just really good confidence for this English side going into this series.
It's not like at any point that, heaps of wickets fell together. A couple may have fallen together, but it just extends what's been an agonizing 2 days for India, Gautam. And I'm sure your sympathies are with the bowlers. You just look at Ishant Sharma and Bumrah, and I mean, my legs ache just watching them walk off the field. It's that sort of feeling that you have to have for them.
And it is very frustrating as well when a tail starts wagging and they start contributing, because once after number 6 or number 7, you want to just finish off the tail as quickly as possible. And that's why we kept mentioning about how important Kuldeep Yadav would have been, especially against Tom Bess and all those tail enders. But then it gets frustrating not only for the batters but for the bowlers as well, especially the fast bowlers, because they have to keep coming back. Imagine now what if England doesn't declare tomorrow, Jasprit Bumrah might start again in the morning with Ishant Sharma with the ball reversing. So again, third day continuously you have to come and bowl. It's always hard work, and when there's nothing, and the longer the tail bats, the more frustrating it is for the entire playing 11. And sometimes it starts playing as an opening batsman, it starts playing in your mind, and suddenly you have to go in and face Jofra Archer. So it's very, very frustrating. That's why we keep mentioning about how important it is for tail to contribute. If the tail starts contributing, it just adds to overall what had overall from 555, if they can whack another 20, 30 odd runs, there's a huge difference from 550 to 570, 580, and suddenly that follow on becomes even more tougher. So I've always believed that not only from the runs point of view, but from the frustration point of view and from overall perspective, I think it's very important for Tail to contribute.
Gautam, at tea time, Belly was quite clear that you can't be too harsh on India's bowlers. They've not had the best of conditions. Anything from what you've observed? Could they have asked any more questions out of England's batsmen, or do we just tip our hat out to England and how well they've batted after winning the toss?
Look, I think there's no England have had the best of the conditions, and winning the toss was huge. But then you've got to deliver the goods, and I think Joe Root again has led the front from that, and they have batted, I thought, very, very well on, as we said, the best part of the pitch. I think, again, I'm a big believer now when you think there's a wrist spinner on the sidelines for India, and just watching how the tail enders have batted there for England, that's what you want. That's what they will not want to face. And that is going to come into question in the next game, whether, again, an attacking option to bowl England out, not just maybe contain, especially on a flat pitch. So, that's the only thing. Like I said, I think effort-wise, India have given absolutely everything which you'd expect. Maybe, again, the support spin hasn't quite been to the level that you'd expect if it's a Jadeja, just to support Ashwin. But again, effort-wise, I think it looks like you're given absolutely everything. Maybe again, looking back now, a couple of drop catches, half chances. You need to take them again on flat pitches, but I mean that's been pretty over the top and a bit harsh. But let's just see how India bat tomorrow. Again, the pitch still looks good. There might be a little bit more turn, but until I've watched India bat, they could be piling on 600 themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we should reserve judgment. Gautam made that point as well after we've seen India bat on this as well. But it's been a hard learning for the likes of Washington Sundar, Gautam, as well as Shahbaz Nadeem, both in their second test, but not with things not happening as easily as they tend to happen for Indian spinners in India. Something they'll learn from this.
It can't get tougher for them, especially against an English side, and that also against Joe Root and Ben Stokes. And we spoke about it earlier as well, that could they have bowled defensive lines? I don't think so, because probably England is the only side which sweeps and reverse sweeps, laps and reverse laps. So they've got so many options. They can sweep in front, behind square leg, reverse lap. So it's very difficult. And when you've got a left-hander and a right-hander combination, when you've got someone like Ben Stokes batting at number 5 and the foundation has already been laid, and then that Jos Buttler is still to come, because these guys will always can hurt you very quickly, and the margin of errors become very quickly. So it can't be better learning from them. It will only get easier from here on, because after I don't think so any other overseas side, whether it is Australia, South Africa, when they come to subcontinent, they will not be able to dominate how Joe Root or, for example, Ben Stokes and this English side has done, because we haven't seen that happening for a very long time. So it feels very odd. It looks very odd as well, because India has never been in the field for such a long time, for how many years? Probably the last time India was in the field for such a long time was when England managed to win the series. So it's probably 6 or 7 years, or probably even more, 8 years. Yeah. So India is not used to actually fielding for such long durations, and spin has never been under so much of pressure. But then you expect when a quality player or a quality side travels to India, and when they play this kind of innings, you've got to appreciate and probably sometimes give it to the opposition as well, rather than saying that or being very critical about your own players. Because for Shahbaz Nadeem and Washington Sundar, this is probably the toughest thing, and probably this is the great learning curve going forward.
Yeah, I did put that tweet out the last time an opposition side or a visiting side kept India in the field this long. To go back to 2011 in Mumbai, when the West Indies kept them in for 185 overs, that test match where India nearly pulled off a fourth innings heist and fell 1 run short for an eventual draw. Ashwin was run out of the last ball of the test. So if he had that sort of finish, then we wouldn't mind this sort of surface. But who's to say that that stranger things can't happen in test match cricket from what we've seen in recent memory, right? Let's get all of you involved into the question answers. We had some terrific questions yesterday on our segment, so let's get as many of them as we can. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, start putting them away with the hashtag AskMatchday. Okay, let's take some from Twitter now, and plenty of questions that I've also reserved for this section because it has to do with the match situation too. Inbel wants to answer those questions. He's not run away because he doesn't like those questions. We'll wait for him to get back, but let me start with the first question till we get Belly back on. Now, this is an interesting one. Was Joe Root missing a trick towards the end of the day by not letting India bat and get maybe 1 or 2 tired Indian wickets? Was there a case for a declaration just before Stumps on day 2, Gautam?
No, I don't think so. The more runs you can get, you push the other team out of the equation, and obviously it's I still feel that if they can get to 600 or whatever, I think there's enough time. If England can actually bowl well, India will have to bat really, really well to save this test match. So Joe Root wants to get one result out of the system, and that's what he's looking to do. Otherwise, a lot of other sides would have actually declared by now. But then Joe Root thinks that the wicket will only get worse from here on, and then probably if he thinks that 8 sessions or 8.5 sessions are enough to get 20 wickets, I think that's the right way as well, because he surely would remember what had happened last time around when England got 450 and still managed to lose that test match. So that was the right tactics as well, and it's not like a must-win game for England. For England, it's about getting their players into confidence, because it's a longer series, and obviously things will get easier from here on. Obviously, might not be easier in the next test match, but once they go to Motera, the surface will be different. So if they can get the hang, if they can get the confidence from the batting lineup, and they can get runs under their belt, it will only get easier for them going forward. So this was the perfect decision.
All right. So, Gautam, in complete agreement with the way England went about it. Maybe they'll even get closer to 600. Who's to say no to that? And there is plenty of time still in this test match. One thing I would ask you is, when till we try and get Ian Bell back, when you're an opening bat, you've been in the field this long, you saw Rohit Sharma put down such a simple chance, and you think clearly either they're thinking already of their batting, or they're just worn out and they're exhausted in the field. In that aspect, though, would you rather say, okay, don't mind, let England bat on, let me get a nice overnight's rest and sleep? I don't want to be going and rushing and padding up for 3 or 4 overs.
See, you're always tempted that you know that there are some tired legs, and you can get a couple of wickets, especially the openers. And when India's got 5 batters and Rishabh Pant as the 6th batter, but then again, one important thing is that it's the start of the series, and at the same time, you want that. Do you think 600 or probably 600 is a good total, and 8 sessions are good enough? 8.5 sessions are good enough to take 20 wickets if England thinks. And plus, see, important thing again is that the wicket will only start getting worse from here on. Probably they'll get a roller tomorrow morning, and then if they end up losing 2 wickets, India might again get a roller, so it gets even more harder. Wicket starts keeping up and down as well. So you need to analyze a lot of other things as well. So there'll be 2 rollers tomorrow, and then suddenly on a drier wicket, if there are 2 rollers, it might just break up even more, and then the spin would come into play, start keeping up and down as well. Just because England has got 550 doesn't mean, and there are tired legs, doesn't mean that you got to give openers a go. But if you look at the entire context for the next 3 days, the worse wicket gets, the difficult it will be India for actually to play 3 days. So that's probably, I think, Joe Root would be thinking about. If they can get to 600, that'll be a huge total.
All right. As we still try and establish our connection to Ian Bell, we'll come back and try and take some. But let's take another question. And I'm also going to be looking at our Facebook and YouTube comments. Just don't forget the hashtag if you are putting your questions on those platforms. Karthik asks, do umpires think about which team has a review left when it's a marginal call? It's an interesting question. When Washington Sundar nicked off Joss Butler, India were pleading and begging that they wanted that wicket. It was a nick, but they were out of their 3 reviews nowadays. So do you think somewhere the percentage call would have been, if the umpire had given it out, given England had a review left?
See, it's a tough one, but then again, I don't think so. England would have reviewed, because had there been a nick and it would have been given out, there's no point just taking it. But at the same time, that's why you got to be very clever, and obviously keeper plays a huge role, because these things can be very frustrating. Imagine if Tom Best contributes tomorrow, if they can reach to 600, it could be a huge total as well. So you got to be very careful if you're not 100% sure, and if you even think that it could be an umpire's call, because the review still stays with you, that's fine. But if you think that, it's going to miss the stumps, there's no point taking it, because sometimes what happens is you end up getting tempted to take a review against a set batter, because you feel that after that you can actually get the other wickets very easily. But a lot of people can actually contribute. So I feel that you got to be very clever from the review point of view. But India unfortunately didn't had many, so obviously they can't complain about it.
Yeah, a couple of pretty ordinary reviews today. Now, Ian Bell's been promoting this hashtag Ask Matchday so actively on social media, but on the questions that have come about, you ran away, Belly. That's not like you. I hope I have you back right now. I think we're still trying to reconnect with a stable internet connection for Ian Bell. So I'll just hang on. Are you with us, Belly? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Sorry. I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, we're going to give this a crack. I'm not sure the internet is ideal. Yeah, I've got you. But maybe, let me try this once, and then we'll see if we've got the ideal internet for you. Just discussing with Gautam on the last question whether Joe Root could have declared just a few overs before Stumps and try and put a few tired Indian batsmen in the middle and nick, a couple of wickets, or whether he's got this right by batting on at the end of day 2.
Yeah, I think that you could definitely look at it that way. I just think England are really thinking if there's any runs to be let's get it now than on day 4 or day 5 and batting again. I think there'd be a little bit of worry. People might see that slightly negative, but I just think they're thinking anything 580 to 600. They're hopefully not batting again in the game, or if they are, it's minimal. I think they're a little bit scarred maybe from the last time it happened certainly in Chennai. So it'll be fascinating. But I think part of that again, never opening the batting. I would imagine those last few overs, as Gautam's already said, that would be on your mind as well. And there's no doubt, tired body, two days in the field is never easy for any top order batsman to get out there. So part of me felt like I'd like to see England have a couple, get one tonight. Can understand why they're trying to bat now while the pitch is good.
Okay, let's just hope we can just neat up that internet connection. Let's see. Let's hope it just figures itself out as these questions come along. Let's take another one on #AskMatchday. Do India start scoring rapidly? Asks Sai Shashank, and then keep the possibility of a win alive, or do they just play normally and evaluate after day 3? It's that sort of thing. Recent memory tells us that any game is winnable. Gautam.
First, India needs to get 2 wickets. That's more important. And when they get it, and then how many does England get, that's more important. And again, I think once the opposition gets 600, it's very difficult actually to, unless it's a miracle, because then you got to get 700, 750, and then try and get the opposition out again for less than 150. So that's the only possibility. For that, you need to have time as well. And that's why probably was one of the reasons why Joe Root didn't declare today, because he wants as many runs as possible. And at the same time, he doesn't want to bat the next time in Chennai in this test match. And at the same time, most importantly, that even if India manages to save the follow-on, at least he has enough cushion of runs so that he can still try and put India back for the 4th inning as well. So I don't think so there's any possibility once England reaches 600 that India can win. Yes, funny things have happened, but then I don't see that happening, because obviously there's not enough time to create a result.
All right, let's take another question, shall we? And this is from. Right, I'm gonna struggle reading the Twitter handle, but I'll give it a shot. Puddleglum the Marsh Wiggle, I think. Cheeky Calvinist, just call him that. Cheeky Calvinist. What would explain all the no balls from India? Fatigue, frustration. What can be done to rectify this? I just looked at that scorecard now, and it's up to 19 that no ball count from India in this innings, which is a bit unusual. Gautam, you can take that first.
Everything. Fatigue, frustration, everything. Probably the weather as well. But then again, I think these guys are experienced bowlers. Ishant Sharma's about to play his 100 test matches, and then Jasprit Bumrah as well. He's an experienced customer. Ravichandran Ashwin as well. Sometimes it can be frustrating when you know that there is not enough carry, when you know that you got to bowl a bouncer which has to be head high, so you try and put that extra effort, and in that case you end up overstepping. But the good thing is that because of this overstep or whatever, these no balls, it hasn't gone on to hurt you, because there hasn't been any dismissals of it. Imagine with this kind of batting lineup, what England had and the kind of runs they've got, imagine had there been a dismissal of the no ball, it couldn't have got worse for India. But then again, these things can come back to hurt you, especially if you have someone like Joe Root or Ben Stokes set and you bowl a no ball and they end up getting a dismissal. Those things can be very, very scary. But then sometimes it's just overall everything, because when you have a good wicket, when there is carry, you might just not put so much of effort. When you know that you got to get the next to carry to the keeper or a slip, you might just put that extra effort. So it's a combination of not only fatigue and frustration, it's about the wicket and the surface you're playing on as well.
Just to add to that, I'll get Belly as well. 8 of those 19 no balls actually from spin, 6 from the left-arm spin of Shahbaz Nadeem. That's a question that's also pointed out by Unitech on YouTube. The account's name is Unitech. Asks, is that a bit surprising? Spinners bowling as many no balls in tests. Belly? I think we're struggling to get your audio, Belly. If you could just unmute yourself. Is that got to do with the mute or unmute? Have I got you now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go for it.
Okay, I think that was no doubt that'll be frustrating for India. I think spin, in particular, no balls, that shouldn't happen. You can understand the fast bowlers charging in, slow wicket, trying to get everything they can for their team, and through like you said, frustration and just pure trying to as hard as they can. But from a spinning point of view, you don't want those. And as was Gautam just said there, that if you got a wicket with a no ball, that would be even more frustrating for your side, whether that's an England side or an Indian side.
All right, there's one more on YouTube I'll take from Shalini Balagopal. India missing Ravindra Jadeja and what he could have possibly done on this surface. Gautam?
Yes, India is because of the combination. Had probably Ravindra Jadeja played this test match, India would have gone with Kuldeep Yadav. And at the same time, Jadeja, see, we keep talking Jadeja as a bowler in Indian conditions, but Jadeja as a batter recently has been a great contributor as well to this batting lineup. And look what he did in Australia. So I'm sure, and the kind of speeds he bowls at would have been a really handful bowler, especially on this condition, even on day one, because he makes things happen. And even if he doesn't make things happen, he doesn't let the pressure of the opposition, and it actually helps people like Ravichandran Ashwin or Jasprit Bumrah, because you got to create pressure from both ends, especially when you're bowling on a surface which is absolutely flat. So India is missing Ravindra Jadeja, no doubt about it, but then you can't just be dependent on one guy. You got to have options. You got to have someone's miss is another person's opportunity. So yes, overall, if you see, Ravindra Jadeja is a huge miss, and not only from the bowling point of view, but from the batting point of view as well, because he can actually contribute a lot at number 7 and the kind of form he's in.
All right, let's take another question that's coming on Twitter now. And you can keep putting your questions with the hashtag AskMatchDay. This is from Ritwij. Who does Ian Bell think is a better player of spin, Root or KP? Wow. Good luck, Belly.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think for pure batting and batsmanship, I think Root would have to have the I suppose the nudge over KP. If I wanted someone to go out there and take a spinner down and be as aggressive as, but it would be KP, absolutely no doubt. One of the most aggressive players I played with and made things happen. Somebody that, again, if you wanted to pay money to watch a player or a batsman go out and take somebody on, he is the guy to watch. He was box office and brilliant to bat with. But I think in terms of craft and all-round defence against any type of spin, left arm spin, leg spin, anything, I think Joe Root actually starting to get to that place now where I think he's probably just nudging him out as probably one of our best players of spin.
Gautam, you want to have a crack at that? You've seen both of those batsmen in the opposition.
See, both players were great players of spin bowling. Joe Root already is a great player of spin bowling, but then I still believe that KP had a weakness against left arm spin. But then Joe Root, I don't see any weakness at the moment. He might have just got better than KP. Yes, Billy very rightly mentioned that if someone has to take down the spinner, it has to be KP, because he can really hurt the opposition, and he can really hurt the spinners. But Joe Root in his own way can hurt the spinners as well. He doesn't let the spinners settle. Probably Joe Root is a better player of rotating strike. KP was probably more to do with those aggressive shots. He would go over the top. He can hit those big sixes. Joe Root in his own way can hurt the spinners very badly. But I still personally feel that Joe Root is a little bit more technically better, and he's got more options than KP.
All right, brilliant. Just brilliant to watch both those batsmen, and terrific answers from Gautam and Belly. Let's take one last one that's coming from Twitter. This is from Rocky. Would Rahane, the captain, have done something differently if he was leading and not Virat? All right, Gautam?
You will have to ask me this tough question. That's unfair. I personally believe he would have actually picked Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah.
That's the most different thing he would have done. But again, on a serious note, I don't think so. If Rahane would have played with the same playing 11, and I'm sure Rahane would be part of this when they would have picked this bowling attack, and he would be part of it. But then he couldn't have done anything more, because there was nothing in the wicket, and plus inexperienced bowlers. Virat did everything possible he could, and nothing more he could have done. It's just pure batsmanship, just pure class, skill. Sometimes you got to give it to the opposition as well, but I don't think so. There was anything wrong which Virat did as a captain on the cricket field, apart from obviously not picking the right playing 11. But whatever he picked, with the unanimous choice he had with the team management and the vice captain, I think he did nothing wrong on the cricket field.
Okay, we just extend that point and get Belly's thoughts as well. After 2 days of evidence now, would you still think Kuldeep Yadav would have made a big difference? We've been calling it since the first pre-show as well, but India could have done with Kuldeep Yadav's wrist spin, Belly?
100%. Again, hindsight is very easy, isn't it? But I agree. I think Gautam made a great point about Jadeja. I think if Jadeja was fit and was playing, I think Yadav would have played. Absolutely no doubt about that. I think obviously you look at it now, they felt probably the pitch was going to turn a bit more, give more assistance, and went more for the control. again, I'm convinced watching England players for a long time, having a wrist spinner against an English side, certainly when you get down to the tail enders and knocking them over, I do believe a wrist spinner would have knocked over Jack Leach and Bess, and made it very hard, not just relying on Ashwin and Boomerang and the seamers to knock the seamers over. So yes, I do. And I think, again, that injury is probably the reason why Yadav didn't play.
And Ronak, just one last point. When we spoke about bowling negative lines, when you have a left-hander and a right-hander in the middle, the only bowler who can actually bowl negative line to both left-handers and right-hander is a wrist spinner, because he can take the ball both ways. But if you have a finger spinner with very limited variation, it's impossible to do that. Imagine if Kuldeep had to bowl round the wicket to Ben Stokes into his pads. He could do the same to Joe Root bowling over the wicket into his pads as well. So you have to have a wrist spinner when you have to even go negative. So there was no wrist spinner, so India could not manage to go on the negative lines.
All right, fair points. That pretty much wraps up the questions that we've had. So big thank you to all of you sending them with the hashtag AskMatchday. Continue to do so through the course of this test match, and we will take as many as we can on ESPN Cricket for Matchday. Let's take final words from Gautam Gambhir and Ian Bell at Stumps on day 2. So England wouldn't mind just batting on day 3 in the morning belly, even if they can get another 30, 40, keep India as long in the field, let this pitch get as bad as it possibly can.
Oh, it'd be dreamland. I don't think I would ever have thought that England would be batting day 3 in India after winning the toss. I mean, that would be one of the best things. I'd actually quite enjoy to see that, if I'm honest with you. As a supporter, that would be incredible. I think England have really got to start thinking about how they're going to win the game. If they do bat on tomorrow, it would be great to see them accelerate and try and push that out there. And let's try and tie batters up there. Again, the fascinating for me, again, will be how India do respond. I'm sure their quality in batting, they'll bat long. I think there's only 3 days in between these 2 test matches, the first 2. So, if England spend another 2.5 days in the field, that would be good for India as well, going into this series.
Are India telling themselves, if it's so easy for England, it's going to be easy for us as well? Or does that come into your mind at the end of day 2? Oh, this pitch could get worse on day 3 and 4, Gautam?
It is already getting worse. So I'm sure, whatever we saw, it will not be easy for Indian batters. And when you've got 600 runs on the board, there will always be pressure. Your first aim is to get 400. Try and avoid the follow on, and you know that it's only going to get worse from day 3, day 4, and day 5, and it's never going to be easy when you're actually saving the test match on day 5. Even if you're 200, 250 behind, because you know that you will literally have to bat 7 or 8 sessions to save the test match. Yes, you've got 20 wickets in hand, but it's not going to be easy what it was on day 1. It will only get tougher and tougher. And as an opening batsman, once the ball starts jumping and gripping, and suddenly, even if it happens twice or thrice, it starts playing in your mind that it can happen to me. Or probably one odd ball, if it kicks in, it goes straight to short leg, and suddenly if you lose 1 or 2 wickets, there's a lot of nervousness in the dressing room. So I'm sure England would look to bat tomorrow. And as I mentioned, it's about rollers as well. England, if they bat tomorrow, they will get one heavy roller. They'll try and make the wicket even more, probably they'll use the heavy roller, and if India comes into bat, they'll use another roller, so it'll even make the wicket even worse. So from that point of view, you got to think that way as well. And a lot of times the captains have done that just because they want to bat for another 5 or 6 overs, because they want a heavy roller in the morning, because it is such a dry surface, it'll just break up completely.
All right. Big thank you to Ian Bell and Gautam Gambhir. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. We'll get you in tomorrow to see how this test match moves on. So do join us then on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. It's been England's day, England's test match, Joe Root's test match on day 1 and day 2 of the Chepauk test. Let's see how India respond on day 3.